off, and we are getting a sneak peek today with Keeper, and Ben Stein is here with us. We're going to get to do some poking around to look at some of the features. I can't wait. So we're super glad that everybody's here. And Heather, would you like to do an introduction first?
I will introduce myself, but I feel like I know everyone here. But if there's anyone here that I don't yet know, I'm Heather Satterley, and I am the Director of Education and Media at Woodard. I am also a CPA, and I've been a practicing accounting professional for almost 30 years. So, and everybody always says, and I love this, and so you keep saying it, but everybody always says, what, did you start doing accounting when you were 10? So keep saying that. That's not true, but I will take it, especially with the, Zoom filter thing. It makes me look a lot younger than I am, but yes, I've been in this game for a long time. I love accounting technology, and I love automating things, and I love spending time with my friends. And so I happen to be in my favorite place right at this very moment. And with my bestie there. Doesn't get any better.
Oh, you make me smile. I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so glad, I'm grateful that I get to hang out with you. Even though it's virtual land, it's still fun hanging out with your bestie. I love it.
All our besties are here. Wow, we got lots of people here today. It's exciting. Thanks everybody for popping in. Your turn, Liz.
Okay, all right, my turn. So you're right. There's a lot of people here that know us. So what can I share? Something that you don't know about me. I actually really like to run.
What?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and so being back in the gym, because I got a trainer, I wasn't able to accomplish my fitness goals on my own. I had to have somebody yelling at me to tell me to do it. And so she's got me back into running again. And
I had no idea.
Really enjoy it. Yeah.
So how far do you run? Do you do like 5Ks?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, at this point, running is really hard on your knees. So I really can't run more than a 5K comfortably. But to me, that's all that I need.
That's awesome.
Well,
I hate running.
Cynthia in the chat is prompting you to join her in the OKC half marathon. You've got about a month to train, it looks like.
Listen, I may not be the fastest, but I will be there. Cynthia, maybe we just need to plan something. We need to start working out our routine now. Water breaks.
I wanted to be the type of person that's a runner. Like I wanted to like it because I'm like looking at people who run. I'm like, wow, I want to be like that. But I hate running. I just don't enjoy it. I have had asthma most of my life, and it's, I don't know. I like walking. I like when my horse runs. That's fun.
Well, my husband, he hates running too. And so those stickers that you sometimes see on people's trucks or cars, it's like running, and they've got their 0.0 whatever, and they've got, their distance of whatever it is that they run. So he has a sticker on his truck that says 0.0, running sucks.
Of course he does.
Okay.
All right. We better get to work, Liz. We're having too much fun.
Ben, so many of you here that are joining us know Ben. So Ben, you may have to not only share who you are and your role at Keeper, because I want everybody to hear that, but then maybe also something other people don't know about you.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, okay. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Keeper's CEO, which means I'm basically our chief listening officer. So y'all tell me what you want, and then we go and build the things. But we can draw a little bit on our own experience, because before I was the CEO of Keeper, I used to be the CFO of a venture-backed tech startup, which meant that when we were really small, I did our books. And then as we got larger, I started working with an outsourced accounting firm. And I don't know how y'all do it. Like, I had to run one close a month, and it was a mess. And how y'all run dozens to hundreds of closes in parallel is a miracle. And so basically, Keeper started as me building the software solutions to the pain points that I experienced when I was running our month-end close. So that was things like a spreadsheet to communicate with my accountant. That was things like a manual review of every transaction in the general ledger. So truly, it keeps us humble how much work there is to do. But that's a little bit about my background that brought us here today. And that background is still relevant today because I run our month-end close. So it's an awesome opportunity for us to continue to use our product, see what our customers are experiencing, and a continual fount of new feature ideas and new polish and improvements that we need to continue to add into the product. So I think that's one of the things that makes us unique, is that we are consumers of the same product that we sell at the highest level of the organization.
You know, that's funny that you say it keeps you grounded whenever you're using the product that you're also recommending. It makes sure that you're able to authentically talk through it, use it, and even sometimes find, improvement opportunities.
And I'd go so far as to say, I mean, I may eat my words in like 2 years from now, but like if Keeper gets so big that like as Keeper gets bigger and our accounting operations get more complex, it continues to motivate us to keep the streamlined, efficient operation so that we so that I can continue to run it. So it's like we have this natural, like real true forcing function as the business continues to grow to keep closes manageable for businesses of all shapes and sizes.
I love that. That's, somebody saying eating your own dog food. Totally, Nancy. That's one of those, can't remember who was the author that originally came up with that quote.
I don't either. Bad at attribution, but we actually call it that internally as well. We have a list of notes that we call dog food, and every month Kenny and I go over it after I run our close.
For fun. You got to keep it interesting.
Well, Alfie wants to know why you don't call it cat food.
I don't know. That would be whatever the like phrase version of etymology is. That would be. I guess it's a single word, so etymology is not inappropriate. But that would be a good research project. If someone in the chat can find out the answer to why it's called dog food, that would be. Yeah. I think other people might like to know.
Yeah, Alfie heard you guys say dog food and came running into my office. So it might be because he eats his brother's. I call our dog his brother's food.
Tiffany, I totally agree. You said Ben's got a radio voice for sure. Yep. And especially that radio mic right there.
It's compensating for a very echoey room. So to the extent that I sound even serviceably like not like reverb in the room, that's the mic is I have the mic to thank for that.
Well, you may have to share what mic that is, because most
it is a Shure MV7 for anyone. It's like $100 and change dollars. So it's an investment, but I don't know about y'all, but my job is basically Zoom all day long. So so it is a worthwhile investment.
I have the blue Yeti caster, which you can see right here, and it works really well.
Yeah, I've got a blue Yeti in the closet back there. It was not quite getting the job done for me. So really? In addition to the mic, I also have this like boom that extends outwards to keep things like keep my desk space relatively clean. But yeah, I don't know. I watched a couple of YouTube videos and they did some pros and cons for blue Yetis versus Shure MV7s, and I tried them both, and this one worked a little better.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we've got some. Ken's saying the same thing. Yeti didn't make it.
My Yeti is still holding up, so hopefully it will continue to do so. But if it doesn't, then now I know what to get.
So, Ben, did you share something that people don't know about you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what folks may not know about us. So Keeper is the name of the product. The actual name of the company is Jensen Technology Inc. And it's named after my dad's business. So my dad runs a structural wholesale steel service center. That's basically steel bought in large quantities from mills and sold in small quantities to people who make stuff with steel, erectors, fabricators, construction companies. Sort of like the roughest approximation, if you don't live in this world, is like what Lowe's and Home Depot are for, this is not exactly analogous, but what Lowe's and Home Depot are for wood, his business is for steel. And the reason it's named that is, so it's a family business. My grandfather started it. My dad runs it today. And my grandfather, since I was like old enough to like pull my own shirt over my head, has been asking me to come work in the business. And the business is headquartered 6,000 Jensen Drive. And so I had more interest in starting a startup. But so I started a startup and I named it Jensen Technology, so that now I can tell my grandpa I'm working on Jensen. So that I think is both a funny way to answer my grandfather's inquiry, as well as something that, like, I mean, so many of the businesses that our customers serve are like family businesses or like second gen, third gen family businesses. And I think it keeps us, again, like grounded to what, like the kind of work that our customers are doing. I think we understand that at a really deep level, because it's not just like came out of this tech industry and have never like known the world of like what most businesses operate in.
Yeah, the entrepreneur world, for sure. Well, so does that fly with your dad? Does he recognize that that's part of the family business, since you carried on a part of the name?
I think my dad's fine with it as well. My grandpa was the one who sort of gave me more grief about it, but I think my dad is fine with it as well.
Well, I'm glad. So I have to say, with the people that are here, I'm looking at my list, and many of you are people that I've heard talk about Keeper. So I'm curious who all is using Keeper. And even if you're using Keeper, you're going to get to see some cool stuff that you may not know exist yet. But for those of you who do not know about Keeper, I would love to have the opportunity, Ben, to let everybody know, what does Keeper do, and how does it make you turn into someone who dreads the month end into somebody who loves the month end?
Yeah. So I think this slide does a good job of recapping. Like, Keeper has a lot of features, but at the end of the day, it is a tool for helping bookkeepers and accountants run a more streamlined month-end close. The thing that makes Keeper so unique is that it is directly integrated to the client's accounting software. And so what that means is, instead of having a list of things to do and then a place where you have to go do them, it is both of those things all in one. So if you want to review transactions, you can have a task to review those transactions. In that task, you can have a report that pulls the list of transactions you want to review. And then you can edit those transactions directly in Keeper, and it'll make the change back to your client's QuickBooks or Xero file. And if you have questions for your clients, you can ask those right from Keeper. If you have questions for your team, you can ask those right from Keeper. So it is taking what is today for a lot of accounting firms, 8 to 10 different systems, and bringing those all into one place, so you can truly have one app to run your entire month-end close.
You know, where I want to tie this in is, today I was in a VCon that Intuit's putting on, and Joe Woodard was there and he was speaking. And Heather, this isn't just for your sake, but you know, Joe was talking about moving past just the bookkeeping tasks and moving into that, you know, role of advisory. Well, it's really difficult to ever get into that role of advisory if you're stuck in, like you just said, that piecemealed part of your job where you just said 9 apps. That's probably not an understatement at all. But we've got information everywhere. So, you know, if you need to go and look in your communication app, if you got to go look in your document app, your email, you know, all of these different places in order to be able to perform this month end, it's really hard to ever move into that advisory piece, which there were so many people who were inspired to do it, but they need something like this in order to help them streamline to get there. So I I know some of the things that you do at month end are very special and unique, but I wonder how many people, because of having this approach where everything's kept in one solution, helps them to do that meeting with the client, offering better advice, having that communication that maybe they wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do, or peace of mind to go and hang out with family because they're not tracing down all of these different pieced parts of data.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, is to understand like I like to think of like bookkeeping, the analogy I like to use, bookkeeping is like a foundation in a house. And you can you need to have a good foundation for your house. So if you have a shitty foundation, you don't want to live in that house, but at the same time, no one rolls up to your house for your dinner that you've organized and they said, wow, look at that foundation. And it's really just the start. And I agree. I think the more the more we can help facilitate bookkeepers to have the time and have the resources they need to start doing more of that advisory work, which I think is this big scary word, but really just means answering the questions your clients want from their financials, more than just needing to put a three-letter CFO word next to it, just answering the questions your clients need to know to run a better business. That's something we think a lot about. How can we give bookkeepers more time to do that? And we also have some tools that help them do that as well, to track KPIs and deliver reporting that go beyond just the three-statement financials.
So Ben, I'm going to have you tell me when you want me to push the button, but I'm going to click over to the next slide so that way we can give some previews into Keeper. And here is a screenshot of the month-end close.
Yeah. So I think maybe, I guess, so I think it might be almost more natural to just hop into the demo and walk through how all of these play together. I think putting them onto separate slides is in some sense anathema to the value proposition of how all of these come together in a single tool. So maybe I can just share my screen and dive into a quick tour of what it actually looks like to run a closing keeper.
So do you want to talk about some of your new stuff before we go into the demo? So that way you have a chance to talk about those as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Click through here faster. So month end close, client portal. Sounds like we're going to get to see these live. So file reviews, financial management reports. So this is that tying it all in to be able to have that client conversation. It's all in one app. And now I'm going to go over to your brand new stuff. So you tell me when you want me to click through these.
Cool. Yeah, I think so. This is a really important point about so the three we sort of shipped three huge things in the last 3 months or so. This, I think, speaks really to what our mandate is at Keeper, which is one app to run your month-end close, regardless of where your debits and credits sit. And so this was something that was really important for us, especially as QuickBooks and Xero, as some of y'all know who do the books on do both QuickBooks and Xero work. These are not exactly the same products. In fact, that's why they compete, is that they're not exactly the same product. But so when we think about a tool like Keeper, which is standardizing a month-end close process, that means that we have to go through that standardization work so that when you log into Keeper, if you run a close in QuickBooks and you run a close in Xero, it truly is almost exactly the same process. But so that took a long time. Xero is now finally live. So if you have been waiting, you can now finally add your Xero clients to Keeper, or if you have been holding off on starting a trial, because you are a Xero only shop, Keeper's Xero integration went live as of the beginning of February.
That's awesome. All right, I want to go to the next one.
Great. So this next one here, vendor requests, is an extension of our popular 1099 Prepare 1099s report. So this report is designed to take all the data that's in your ledger and show you which vendors you might be missing information for, which vendors you may need more documentation on, which vendors are over the $600 IRS threshold. Diamond, who's in the chat, and I had a good conversation about which types of transactions may or may not be reportable. So you can fine tune this report so to show only the set of transactions that contribute to the totaling. But so the entire purpose of this report, and I'll get to the report once we get into the demo, is so that you can see which vendors do you need to collect W-9s for. But then you still have to collect those W-9s. And so that's what we built with vendor requests. Those vendor requests are a way where you can, instead of requesting that documentation from your client, actually proactively reach out to the vendor directly and get their W-9. So if they have one, they can just upload a W-9. The same easy way your clients can upload documents into their portal in Keeper. But if they don't, they can also walk through a form filling experience where they can then e-sign a W-9 at the end, and then you get a W-9 with one click that posts all the information from their W-9 into QBO and saves it. So it's a great way to take a lot of the load off of year end, and hopefully with our Keeper customers, they do this every month so that this doesn't pile up in October, November, December. But certainly this was a huge help for a lot of firms as they march through the march towards the January 31st busy season this year.
All right, and then I'm going to come over here, but I feel like there needs to be a drum roll because this one's really cool. I'm going to share this next slide. Chrome extension. What? All right, Ben, take it away.
Yeah, so this is a really important next step for Keeper. So we launched this on this past Thursday. And what this Chrome extension lets firms do. So we talked about the big benefit to Keeper is that it takes all your QBO data and brings it into Keeper, or QuickBooks or Xero data, and brings it into Keeper so that you can work in the same place where you can track your work and manage your work in the same place where you actually need to do that work. But it turns out that street goes both ways. And so with the Chrome extension, what we're doing is we're taking all of the power of the capabilities that we have within Keeper, and we're sort of unbundling those and putting them back into QuickBooks so that when you need information that's living in Keeper, or you need to put information that is going into Keeper, you need to put information into Keeper, you can actually do that in QuickBooks now rather than needing to go back into Keeper. So we'll talk, I'll give a longer form tour of what that looks like, but there's going to be a lot more coming down the pipe for the Chrome extension as well, but super excited to continue to make the tools that we have available more and more accessible.
Okay, well, thank you for bearing with me to work through some of those, because I wanted to make sure that we were priming the stage here for everybody to understand how much is inside a Keeper, because there's a lot of, like you said, taking all of those piecemealed apps and you've pulled it into one solution. So instead of slides, I love it that you're going to do a demo. I'm going to stop sharing, and then Ben, are you able to start?
Yep. All right, how's that?
Looks great.
Okay. So where we are now is we're on what we call the close page in Keeper. The close page is where all of your work lives. So this is where your tasks live. This is where we pull in all your clients' QuickBooks data. This is where your review reports live, where you can catch and correct those errors that may sneak in from the bank feed or elsewhere. This is where you can communicate with your clients. This is where you can generate management reporting. This is where you can manage your clients' documents, where you can chat with your team, where you can track your time. So really, this is that. When I talk about Keeper as that an all-in-one app to run your month-end close, this page is the all-in-one page to run your month-end close. So some pieces of this are pure play task management, similar to what you may have seen before in ClickUp or Asana or any other task manager that's out there. So you've got a task here that says, bring in all your data from Stripe. And then you've got some checklist items here. You work your way down a task. And so the actual act of adding this information into QuickBooks, you're still going to be doing that in QuickBooks. But so here you can track your task, organize things the same way you would any sort of task manager. And then I think really where you start to see the impact of Keeper sync with QuickBooks is when you get down to this account reconciliation section. So here, Keeper automatically builds this for you. We'll pull in all the bank and credit card accounts. You can add in other balance sheet accounts that you may reconcile, loan balances, even revenue accounts will sometimes pull here if you do some sort of a reconciliation or tie out of a QBO balance to an external system. Like if you have e-commerce clients and you want to tie out like Stripe revenue, or sorry, Shopify revenue to some Shopify report. So we'll pull the balance of that account at month end. And then you can also add your supporting documentation right here. So you don't need to like construct and maintain some secondary file system. You can just add in the supporting documentation, the statement, the reconciliation report right here. And then it's automatically tied to the account that you're working on, the close that you're working on, the client that you're working on. So it's really auto organizing that information just by the process of you doing your work here in Keeper. And then after the account recs, we have the review sections. So this is the part of the close where you're reviewing your client's QuickBooks data, catching coding errors, doing whatever you need to do with those, whether it's correcting them, communicating with your team, communicating with your clients. And so this section is sort of broken up into, or that phase of the close is broken up into 3 core sections. So we've got the transaction review, where you review transactions, the payee review or entity review. This is where the 1099 report I was mentioning earlier lives. And then we have the final review. That's your core financial statements and things like your AP and AR aging. So popping back to the transaction review, we'll talk about a couple of reports here. The first one, which is the expense inconsistency. So I mentioned way at the beginning of this call that when I ran our month-end close at the startup I used to be CFO for, my process for that was manually scanning the general ledger to just like see if anything jumped out at me as looking weird. And then I would sometimes I would download it into Excel so I could highlight it and then come back to them. But so this is designed to automate that entire process. So we're looking at your vendors and customers. We're looking at the statement descriptors here. We're looking at your expense accounts. So all the data that we have about that transaction, and we're cross-referencing it against every other transaction we see that looks similar. And then we're flagging any potential classification discrepancies here. So like Zoom, we can see is classified to office supplies. But if we click this arrow for more information, we can see that typically Zoom is coded as software. So Keeper is going to flag that transaction for your attention. And then the great thing about Keeper is you just click the cell you want to edit, you type the change you want to make, you hit enter, and that'll instantly sync the change back to QuickBooks. This process, by the way, works the exact same in Xero. So my demo file is built on QuickBooks. I hope fans of Baby Blue will forgive me, but this process is exactly the same, exactly as seamless in Xero as it is in QuickBooks. One of the really nice things about this report is it allows you to build rules that support the flexibility of like your business, the way you want to run it. So this is a little bit of a weird example here, but what you can also do is you can create a rule that like a dollar-based exclusion rule, where you can say, okay, if Zoom is, I think a better example of this would be like a gas station. So we see a lot of customers where they'll say like, okay, if we see a transaction at a gas station, if it's under $10, we're going to put it in PM&E. And if it's like over $10 or if it's over $50, we're going to put it in gas. And that causes tons of problems for any sort of like bank rules. So it's really easy to mess those up. But so here in Keeper, you can add further complexity to what the report checks against and say, okay, if Exxon is in like gas and it's over $50, that's fine. Otherwise, we still want to review it here because it might be mills.
Interesting.
Great,
So
so
it's not excluding the transaction from the books. It's excluding it from
Correct.
the report.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So it's sort of fine tuning the
Hiding.
report here.
Yeah. Okay.
And then with the split right there, so are you saying that we can also split?
So you
upon
can, that's not what this means here.
certain
This actually comes from a part of the, like if you pull up the like journal report in
it.
QuickBooks, it calls the related account the split. So you've got, I mean, double entry, you've got 2 accounts here. You can, if you wanted to, like split transactions, so you can add line items here. But this column name doesn't specifically refer to that.
So you're pulling over the columns directly from QuickBooks, so that way it's
Correct.
easy to understand on reports. Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do see that, yeah, you do have the option down there below to add the line.
Yeah. So if you wanted to like split this out into $200 in office supplies and $200 in, or let's say you bought a laptop and some other stuff, and so you wanted to put $1,000 in computers, and then you wanted to put $500 in office supplies, you could split those out here.
Well, and I've got a client who has it's a reoccurring dollar amount every single month, but it does have to get split between marketing, and then part of it is franchise fees.
Yep.
And so those kinds of things that are repetitive, it would be great to have a way to split those out.
Yeah. And so you can do that in Keeper. And one of the other things you can do is you can build out custom saved search reports, so that if you said like, okay, I want to make sure that as a part of our closing process that we've done that, you could create a custom report here. This is just a simple example here, but you could say a custom report here that's like marketing transaction that needs to be split out. And then I'm just going to pull one here. So you could, I don't know who the vendor would be here, but let's just say for all promos, I hope I have some transactions here. So you can create a custom saved search report, and then you can see those transactions. One of the really nice things, again, about blending the data that's here with the like workflow and the process of actually checking your work, is you can have checklists embedded in here. So you don't just have a report that's saved, you also have what you want to do with it. So make sure all transactions in this report have been split 50-50 between GLs X and Y. And that way you open this report, your team knows what they need to do here, and they can do it. So you can feel confident you're documenting your processes and still able to delegate your work.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Very
very
cool.
flexible. And, if you don't mind, I've got a couple of questions over here in chat that I'll throw at you.
Yep.
All right. So one of the questions is, how do you handle images? So Candace is asking, sorry, Jennifer was asking about allowing customers to upload images. So if you were communicating with your clients, maybe you were sharing that report that you were showing earlier where you were asking some questions. Can they respond to you with an image, or can you share an image with them and they could respond back to you?
The answer to both of those questions is yes. We support files in Keeper. We support syncing files to QuickBooks, and we support pushing files or viewing files in the portal. So for example, here, if we needed a receipt for this transaction, again, the value of doing all your work here is it's all integrated into one place. You just ask for a receipt right here. In fact, we even have a report here called expenses and bills without attachments over a receipt policy threshold, so that you can have that here and then bulk ask for all the things. And then your clients in the portal. So this is the portal here, but your clients in the portal can see that question here. They can view any files that might be related that you might have uploaded, and then they can also upload their own file, and you can push that back to QuickBooks.
Okay. And then when you were over there in add a comment, it looked like there were some pre-created templates that you could choose from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll wind that back. So we have some defaults here, but you can certainly add any of your own here as well. So you can have a template for like, what is this for? BVP is like, is this business or personal? If there's something, this is great for two reasons. One is it just saves a few clicks here and there. And two is if it's something where you've got a team and you want your team speaking in the same language. So it feels like the same firm, single culture, single writing style is communicating to your clients. You can write these template questions here, and then your clients have the exact style of like, what is this for? Can you tell me more about this transaction? Whatever it is that you want your team communicating, you can have it so that they're all using these same exact template questions here.
So a follow-up question to that, that Kat is asking, Kat, I'm kind of interpreting this question and turning it into a little something else. What does it look like for the client experience? Are they also logging into a Keeper portal? Or are they staying in email? What's that look like?
Yeah, great question. So the clients do have a portal experience. One thing that I emphasize here is this experience is for 95 or so % of the customers that we work with completely custom branded. So what that means is it's not, your clients aren't learning what Keeper is, your clients don't have to learn, this is designed to be an extension of your own firm services. So it's your logo here, your color scheme, it's your website, it's your integrated email address. You can choose a custom phone number. So it really feels like an extension of your firm's services rather than another app you have to convince your clients to use. And then within the portal, everything that they need is right here, and everything that you need is right here. So what that means is they can drag and drop files here. If they're on their phone, they can click this and take a picture, for example. They can see any questions you ask for them, split out into different question types. They can ask you questions here, and they can even see the financials that you publish through Keeper. So they can, you can publish the latest financials, and then send them an email and say, hey, your latest financials are in the portal. So they come into the portal to read their financials, and then they also see the 17 uncategorized transaction questions you're still waiting on. So this is one of those things where the more that you put into the portal, the more each piece of the portal helps the clients use the other pieces.
Nice, nice. We've got a couple of other questions here. Jennifer, I'm going to say yes, because one of the things that Jennifer's asking is, can you split transactions by account? We were looking at that earlier.
Yep.
She's also asking, can you split by product and service, class and location, which Gita, hi, you were asking the same question. So
yeah, so if you have class or location, or even customer on, to use like billable expenses, for example, that's important. So if you have any of these settings on, if you don't, like, this is independent of like what's in QuickBooks. So you could have class on in QuickBooks and off in Keeper. I don't know why you would, but you could. But so here you can see, you can edit those fields, and then similarly, you can split those fields as well. So if you wanted to come in and update the class or the customer across multiple line items, you can do that.
And you were showing split by class, split by customer. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
and
location, I think you can try, but location is actually a transaction level. I'm not sure what we do here. I'd have to try it out, but location is transaction level. So to my knowledge, you can't have location on a class by class or on a line item by line item basis, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay, so Sandy just asked a really good question. She said, there's so many goodies here. Do you have training, or what do you recommend whenever people are implementing?
We do. So we have both self-directed guides as well as a customer success team whose entire job is making sure that people have the resources they need, whether those are self-directed or live calls, to learn how to take the most or get the most out of the subscription that they have in Keeper.
Awesome.
Okay, so coming back to, or are there other questions before I show a couple more things here in Keeper?
Yeah, this is just a question. So because Keeper is a sense of middleware, Tiffany's asking, where is the data stored, or where is it pulling it from and kept?
As much as is possible, we push to QuickBooks and Xero. So anything that's accounting related that we can push to QuickBooks and Xero, we're pushing to QuickBooks and Xero. So like vendor information, if you type in their email and then save that, we're going to push that directly to QuickBooks, so that if you then update that vendor email in QuickBooks, it'll show the updated email in Keeper, because we try to treat the ledger as canonical. Other things where there's not a space for that in the ledger, then that's where we'll store it on our servers. So things like a custom task here, that's going to live on our servers. Things like your client details, so any sort of high-level information you want to store about your clients, that's going to live in Keeper. But anything that's accounting related, transaction, ledger, chart of accounts, financial statements, all of those get saved in QuickBooks or Xero.
Got it.
The one downside about supporting Xero is it makes every sentence that I explain about how a ledger sync works slightly less elegant, because I have to say or Xero. But I think it's a little bit worth that.
So Gita's asked a question, which I love it. She's saying, do you have templates for onboarding a client? So Earlier, we were looking at a workflow list. She's asking onboarding clients, collecting data, cleanup jobs. Is there some type of tasking that exists already? And so she didn't have to start from scratch.
Yeah. And so this is a great opportunity to talk about a couple of things we have here in Keeper. First is someone asked earlier about training. So this is a good example, right? We get a lot of people who ask us about how to run a new client onboarding in Keeper. And so we have lots of written and video documentation on exactly how to do that, that walks you through everything that I'm about to walk through. But we strive to be the vendors that we wish we could work with. And we buy a lot of software ourselves. And one of the things that we think is really, really important is lots and lots and lots of documentation. So you will find that here in our help center at help.keeper.app. That said, showing you what that actually looks like in Keeper. So we have lots of different templates for the lots of different things you need to do more than once at Keeper or in your business. And so the particular type of template we're talking about here is a project template. Just as a minor aside, there's snippets we were looking at earlier of like clicking info, and that fills what is this for. This is where you manage those too. Anyway, so basically what a project template is it's a bundle of tasks for you to complete combined with a bundle of questions you have for your clients. And so what that looks like here in this case is, and this is available to anyone who signs up for a free trial, they'll see this as sort of a built-in prepackaged onboarding template that they can use. But basically, it's the tasks you need to complete when you sign a new client. And then what you can also do is you can put in your non-transaction questions, basically your client intake form. So any files you need, any access you need them to give, you can put all of these in here. And then when you apply this to a client, it auto posts in all of these tasks and all of these non-transaction questions into your close page and to your client's portal respectively.
Awesome. Okay.
Actually, one more thing before I go on, we go on from this point. Even better than this existing in Keeper is the fact that you don't actually need to do anything here as well to reapply this template, because we actually have our Zapier that does this for you. So everything I just described, once you've set up the once you've set up the template the way you want it to work, you can actually come here into Zapier, and we've built a way so that you can, our docs will also cover how to do that, but we've built a setup so that you can have whatever proposal system you use. In this case, we have Ignition, but it works the same if you use GoProposal or DocuSign or HelloSign or anything like that. And basically all you need to do is set it up so that when you have your new proposal signed, it can auto run a Zap. And I think you literally can even just like copy from our template here. That auto runs this Zap that'll create the client in Keeper. It creates the contact that's associated with that client in Keeper. And then it applies that template that you just created for your new client onboardings as well.
I love that. You know, one of the things that's difficult is the person who's engaging with the client initially is not always the person who's going to start the tasks. So this is a way to notify that you're ready for that next phase. Super
Exactly.
awesome.
So
Okay,
this,
oh, go ahead, Heather.
oh no, so Geeta asked a great question and I was going to respond to it. And then I'm like, I'm not the Keeper expert. So I was going to ask it for her. So, I mean, this looks like it would replace any kind of task management that you would have in your firm, at least from the month end close. But if you can create a template for pretty much anything, then I would imagine you could create a workflow for, for tax or whatever, even if it doesn't integrate into your tax software, you could still keep track of other, services and projects that you are completing. Is that right?
Yeah. So I want to, so definitely, and we see firms who will use Keeper for their bookkeeping and tax workflows. And then we see a smattering of different people who will do like everything else. The like happy path, which is what that is, like you do everything in Keeper. There's a lot of different deviations from that, and we support all of them. What I will say, Keeper is laser focused on improving the month-end close. And so there's a lot of value to having all of your tasks centralized, and you can centralize all of them in Keeper. And we've built Keeper to be a very general form task manager so that you can do things like tax. That said, we focus a lot, like, I think it's really important. I think y'all have all had this experience of like a software that like does something really well for one of your clients or for your firm, and then they like stop focusing on the thing they do really well, and then they go like tackle a million different unrelated problems. So we try to consciously not get too broad, and so what that means is we really focus on month-end close and bookkeeping work. Not to say that we will dissuade tax firms from using Keeper, but I think it's really important to emphasize just how much, like in everything in life there are trade-offs. You can definitely use Keeper for bookkeeping and tax tasks and questions, but we have not made the same investments in optimizing and streamlining tax workflows as we have with bookkeeping workflows, and that is true at every level of the stack, right? So we came back to what I said at the beginning of this call, which is I run our month-end close. I don't file our taxes, so I can't really speak to those pain points, and organizationally we can't speak to those pain points the same way that we can with bookkeeping.
Gotcha. No, that's thank you for that. Yeah, awesome.
It's a great answer. You know, one of the things that was so exciting was to hear about the Chrome extension. So we're starting to knock on the door of end of time. Do you mind jumping over to the Chrome extension and sharing what it looks like?
Yeah, of course. We'll see. It has been like 15 seconds since I was last in QuickBooks, so we'll see if it logs me out when I refresh the page. It looks like I'm okay. Okay, so I mentioned that the premise of Keeper is that it can take all of your work and all of the work you need to do and all of the work you need to track and keep them in one place. And so we talked a lot about how do we bring that into Keeper, but this is how do we bring the stuff that's in Keeper and bring that into QuickBooks. And so the first thing you'll see when you download the Chrome extension is this client info button. So those notes that I was mentioning earlier that I mentioned, these live on Keeper's servers because there's not a place to put them in QuickBooks, are still valuable to be seen in QuickBooks. And so you can see those right here in QuickBooks. So this is a great place to put things like coding notes. So like, watch out for this kind of transaction, or hey, they're like expecting this loan payment, this like $5,000 loan payment every month. So or anything that might be relevant to how to use how to work on this client's books. You can put that in the client info. You can make edits here, and then those edits are visible in Keeper and vice versa. And so I think this is a little piece of just like reducing another app you need to have open, another tab you need to click open, and expect to see a lot more of those kinds of things as we continue to improve and improve the Chrome extension as the Chrome extension continues to mature. The other thing that I think a lot more people are a lot more excited about is you can now ask questions about transactions from the bank feed. So we've got this GitHub transaction here, and those snippets that we could use in Keeper, we can also use them here as well. So if we need some input from our clients on how to classify a transaction, we can just ask it right here. And then we can post it to a suspense account, but we can also just post it to a regular account here and then add it, codes it from the bank feed, posts it into the journal. And then also if we come back here into our client portal here, we can see we've already got that transaction in the portal. Our clients can already go and give us feedback. We haven't talked about the client portal notification system, but there are automated reminder emails. Your clients can consistently get reminders about those outstanding questions. But so really, it's cutting down a lot of the doing things in two places because you can now just code from the bank feed, ask any questions that are relevant here, and then they'll know that they're going to your client's attention so that they can provide that input.
Well, and so while you're demoing, Heather launched the poll, and I was telling everybody in chat, y'all got some really, really great questions.
Yeah.
We were only able to share a portion of those. So if you've still got outstanding questions, make sure that you answer the poll, and Ben and his team can reach out to you directly to answer some of those. If you said no in the poll, but now you've changed your mind, you can always share your email address over inside of chat, And that way we make sure that
We have
you
an
get-
overwhelming response to, you're gonna be making a lot of calls.
Well, it's work I'd be happy to do.
right? Yay, success.
Yay.
It always
All right,
feels
I'm gonna
good.
close the poll. So this is your last minute. Oh, we got one more. And it looks like there's about 9 people who haven't voted. So, all right, here we go. I'm gonna keep it up for a minute because people are still voting that they want to be contacted. So,
All right, well, you've got that up. I'm going to go ahead and go through. We've got some cool stuff coming up. So we have continued this year to do our firm spotlights. So we have some of the accountants in our community who come on and they share their tech stack with us. We have Dan Luthi, who's going to be coming on April 11th. That's going to be awesome. We also have Kelly G, who is going to be joining us to go through her tech stack. If you or somebody that you know should be on Happy Hour and share their tech stack with us, make sure to let us know, because we want to share with the community what's working, what's the workflow with those different apps. So it's always great to have the community come on. We also have Rewind that's going to be doing a deep dive. They're going to be sharing how to use Rewind, what kind of use cases. And then we're going to be having SwissNet come on, and then Commerce Sync. So Commerce Sync is doing some really cool stuff with handling those pay now or buy now, pay later kind of scenarios. So that's really going to be fascinating. I thank you. Thank you everyone for coming on.
And if there's any apps out there that you want to see a deep dive of, let us know and we'll let them know. So throw it in the chat, send us an email, tell them, say, we want you on Happy Hour, and we'll reach out to them. So yeah, this is great. We got some more. We have some really great practitioners that are going to be coming on over the next year. We're booking out into the fall already, and we've got superstars like Sherelle Martin's going to come on and share a tech stack. And I just heard back from Nicole Davis, and she's going to come on and share a tech stack. So I'm getting super excited. And what's really exciting about it is we're going to see some tech stacks that include, obviously have QuickBooks, but we're also going to see some Xero ones, which is going to be really cool, because I think that's something that we really haven't focused on Happy Hour before. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Man, I agree. I'm looking
Ben,
forward to it.
thank you. I am blown away. This is amazing. Wow. Yeah, I wish I still had a bookkeeping practice because I would.
I will say,
up.
Keeper makes me look forward to my month end close. I am not unbiased in that opinion, but I was going to say thank you all. Truly appreciate the opportunity. Always a pleasure to see y'all, and a pleasure to be able to come in and present on what we've been hard at work building with Keeper. So to anyone else, you can always reach out to me personally, ben.stein@keeper.app. You can sign up for a free trial on our website. And if you have suggestions on how we might continue to improve Keeper, we'd love to hear them. Our work will always keep us busy, and we're honored to support a lot of our customers here. So thank you again for having me on.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you in we're going to see you next week, right? Next week. Is that right? 21st. No, today's the 21st, but we are still going to see you next week. So we have one on the 28th too. So, all right, everybody.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.